You've heard fasting can burn fat, but for many it just stops working. The first few weeks feel amazing, energy surges, cravings fade, and the scale finally moves. But then, nothing. The fat loss stalls, focus dips, and frustration sets in. You're doing everything right, same fasting hours, same clean meals. Yet your body just won't respond the way it used to. Most people blame their metabolism or willpower, but the real reason fasting stops working has nothing to do with either. It's something hiding inside your meal window. Something small, but powerful enough to switch your body out of fat burning mode without you realizing it. See, fasting isn't just about not eating. It's about what happens when you finally do eat. And there's one macronutrient that quietly controls whether your fast ends in fat burning or fat storage. Protein. But not just any protein. The timing and type of protein make or break your results. The wrong move can blunt your fast benefits in minutes. The right move, though, can flip a metabolic switch that keeps your fat burning engine running long after your fast ends. Most people think protein is just for muscle, but it's actually your fasting amplifier, the nutrient that tells your body, we're safe, we can keep burning fat. When you learn how to use it strategically, fasting stops feeling like a grind and starts working like nature designed it to, repairing, restoring, and revealing the energy that's been buried under years of metabolic noise. Today, you'll learn that one simple protein trick and how it can reignite your results, reset your metabolism, and turn your fasting routine into the most powerful fat burning rhythm your body's ever experienced. Fasting is powerful, no doubt about it. When you stop eating, your insulin levels drop, and that's the moment your body finally gets permission to reach into storage, to start burning fat instead of sugar. It's the signal your metabolism has been waiting for. But here's the part most people don't realize: dropping insulin is just the first step. Fasting opens the door to fat burning, but it doesn't guarantee your body will walk through it. And that's where the protein story begins. In the early days of fasting, your body thrives on that shift from sugar to fat. Energy feels steady, focus sharpens, and your belly starts to shrink. But as you continue, your body does what it's designed to do. It adapts. It's smart. It starts conserving energy, trimming down the very machinery that burns fat. If you're not balancing fasting with the right kind of protein, your metabolism quietly slows. You burn fewer calories at rest. Your body holds onto fat as a survival response. It's not that fasting stopped working. It's that your body is protecting itself from what it thinks is starvation. Inside your cells, protein isn't just a building block for muscle, it's a signal. It tells your body whether to stay in repair and burn mode or shift into preserve and store mode. When you fast, your body breaks down old, damaged proteins to recycle them. That's part of the magic of autophagy. But if you go too long without providing high-quality protein, you send a different message that resources are scarce. And the body responds by slowing repair, suppressing thyroid function, and even reducing lean muscle. Less muscle means a slower metabolic rate, and suddenly, the same fasting window that once melted fat now barely moves the scale. Here's what that looks like in real life. You skip breakfast, push through hunger, hit your 18th hour fast, then finally eat. But the meal is either too light in protein or timed wrong. Maybe it's a salad with chicken or eggs with too few amino acids to signal repair. You've dropped insulin beautifully during your fast, but without enough protein when you refeed, your metabolism doesn't get the signal to rebuild. That missing signal can stall everything. Fat loss slows, cravings return, and energy fades. You start wondering if you've messed up fasting. But the truth is, your timing is off, not your effort. The science is simple but profound. Insulin manages fat storage, but protein manages metabolic activity. When you combine them wisely, low insulin from fasting plus strategic protein intake at refeed, you create a rhythm of controlled stress and recovery. That rhythm tells your body, we're not starving, we're repairing. And when your body believes it's safe, it unlocks deeper fat stores, especially the visceral fat hiding around your liver and organs. The fat that drives inflammation and insulin resistance. Think of fasting as the spark and protein as the fuel. Without the fuel, the fire burns out too soon. But when you feed your body correctly after fasting, you reignite that fire and it keeps burning clean, deep, and steady. That's why some people thrive on fasting while others crash. not because fasting doesn't work, but because they're missing the protein rhythm that keeps metabolism alive. What I've seen again and again, both in research and in real people, is that those who pair fasting with intentional protein timing see not just fat loss, but body recomposition. They lose visceral fat while preserving, even building, lean muscle. Their skin looks tighter, their energy steadier, their mental clarity sharper. They're no longer just burning calories, they're repairing their metabolism. So yes, fasting lowers insulin. That's the doorway to fat burning. But protein, that's the key that keeps the door open. It tells your body to keep burning fat, to rebuild muscle, to repair tissue, and to stay metabolically active. Once you get that balance right, your fasts stop feeling like deprivation and start feeling like a partnership. Your body and metabolism finally working together, not against you. When you stop eating, something remarkable begins inside your body. Within hours, insulin levels start to fall. That drop is the trigger, the signal that tells your system, we're done storing, it's time to start burning. Insulin's job is to move nutrients into cells, but when it's constantly elevated from frequent meals, snacks, or too much sugar, your body never gets the chance to dip into its fat reserves. Fasting finally gives insulin a break, and as it falls, fat cells release stored energy in the form of fatty acids. That's when your metabolism switches from sugar burning to fat burning mode. But something else happens alongside this. Something even more fascinating: autophagy. It's your body's internal cleanup system. When nutrients are scarce, cells begin breaking down old, damaged proteins and recycling them into new, healthy components. It's like spring cleaning at the cellular level, removing broken mitochondria, repairing membranes, and improving insulin sensitivity. This is the healing side of fasting that people feel as mental clarity, steady energy, and inflammation relief. Here's where protein enters the conversation and where many people misunderstand it. Protein doesn't automatically break your fast. What matters is how much, what kind, and when. Amino acids, the building blocks of protein, do stimulate insulin slightly, but not in the same way carbohydrates do. Carbs flood the bloodstream with glucose, forcing a strong insulin response to push that sugar into cells. Protein, on the other hand, triggers a gentler rise, one that supports repair without shutting down fat, burning entirely. However, there's a catch. If you consume too much protein too frequently, especially during your fasting window, that mild insulin rise can start to add up. Your body interprets it as a cue that energy is plentiful again and autophagy slows down. That's why timing matters. The goal isn't to avoid protein, but to strategically place it, to use it as a tool that amplifies fasting's benefits instead of blocking them. Think of fasting and protein as partners in a metabolic dance. During your fasting hours, insulin stays low, autophagy ramps up, and your body begins clearing out the old. When it's time to refeed, that's your cue to provide clean, complete protein. The amino acids you eat then become raw materials for rebuilding what fasting helped clear away. This rhythm, breakdown followed by rebuild, is what keeps your metabolism young and efficient. You're not just losing weight, you're upgrading your cellular hardware. In studies on intermittent fasting, people who reintroduce protein in balanced amounts, usually between 20 and 40 grams per meal, depending on body size, maintain lean mass far better than those who didn't. Their insulin stayed low overall, their fat oxidation stayed high, and their bodies became more responsive to fasting over time. That's the key difference between short-term fasting success and long-term metabolic repair, learning to nourish without overstimulating insulin. Let's look deeper at the amino acid response. Certain amino acids, like leucine, are powerful triggers for muscle repair and mitochondrial function. When consumed after fasting, they help rebuild muscle tissue without causing the same metabolic spike that carbs do. This small rise in insulin from leucine and other essential amino acids is actually beneficial. It helps drive nutrients into cells for recovery, not storage. But when protein intake becomes excessive, especially when paired with carbs or eaten continuously throughout the day, the system gets overloaded. Insulin never fully settles, and the fat burning signal weakens. The sweet spot lies in using protein to support your fast, not sabotage it. During the fasting window, you let insulin and autophagy do their quiet work, clearing, repairing, restoring. During your feed, you reintroduce enough protein to tell your body, you can rebuild now. That signal not only maintains lean tissue, but keeps your metabolism active and your fat-burning machinery humming. Over time, this cycle strengthens your insulin sensitivity. Your cells become better at responding to smaller amounts of insulin, meaning you need less of it to manage the same amount of energy. That's the hallmark of a metabolically flexible body, one that can glide between burning fat and using protein efficiently without crashing energy or storing excess fuel. So when people say protein spikes insulin, they're missing the nuance. Yes, it can. But in the right context, it's a controlled signal, not a disruptive one. The goal isn't to eliminate insulin completely. That would halt growth and repair, but to master the timing of its rise and fall. Fasting brings it down. Protein, used wisely, brings it up just enough to rebuild what fasting tore down. That's the harmony that keeps your metabolism balanced, steady, efficient, and always primed for deep fat burning and cellular renewal. You said expansion prompt 3. The mistake? Why most people's protein habits stall fat loss at 700 words. Reveal how many people unintentionally block fasting benefits by eating protein too early, too often, or in the wrong ratio. Include examples of healthy habits that backfire, such as sipping protein shakes all day or combining protein with hidden carbs. Show how these small errors keep insulin slightly elevated, blocking deep fat release. A note say avoid heading and ending sentences. ChatGPT said, most people who fast eventually hit a frustrating wall, and it's rarely because they're fasting wrong. It's because they're refueling wrong. The truth is, the average person unintentionally sabotages their fat-burning window without realizing it. They're eating clean, choosing healthy foods, and trying to keep up their energy. But their protein habits are quietly undoing the very insulin control that fasting depends on. It usually starts with good intentions. Someone begins fasting, feels great for a few weeks, then notices their energy dipping or weight loss slowing. So they reach for what seems like the smart fix. A protein bar in the morning, a shake before lunch, maybe a few bites of lean snacks between meals to stay on track. But here's the problem: every time you take in protein, even a little, your body releases a small pulse of insulin. Not nearly as much as it would for sugar or bread, but enough to interrupt the clean, low insulin rhythm that fasting depends on. If this happens repeatedly throughout the day, your insulin never truly rests. It hovers just high enough to block the release of stored fat. This is where healthy habits go wrong. A morning protein smoothie with almond milk and a banana sounds clean, but that combination of amino acids, natural sugars, and milk proteins is enough to nudge insulin up and switch your body out of fat burning mode before your fast even begins. Or consider the post-workout drink people sip mid-fast to protect muscle. What they're really doing is breaking the hormonal advantage fasting worked so hard to build. The body doesn't distinguish between a snack meant to help and one meant to indulge. It only sees the insulin signal and responds by storing, not burning. Another common mistake is eating too much protein at once. Because protein feels safe, people pile on more than their body can process efficiently. A 10-ounce chicken breast, a double scoop shake, or a large portion of Greek yogurt. The excess amino acids that can't be used for repair don't just disappear. They're converted in the liver into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis, which raises blood sugar and, in turn, insulin. Even without carbs, too much protein at the wrong time can act like sugar in disguise. Another major misstep: combining protein with hidden carbohydrates or fat, heavy sauces. A piece of fish with sweet teriyaki glaze, chicken with yogurt dressing, or even a protein bar sweetened with syrup. All these spike insulin more than expected. The combination of amino acids plus sugar creates a synergistic effect that traps your metabolism in storage mode. You might stay within your calorie range and still gain weight because your hormonal environment is flipped. I've seen people stall for months because of this. They're fasting diligently, eating whole foods, and wondering why their body won't budge. The pattern is always the same. Insulin never truly drops low enough for deep fat release. The liver keeps getting micro signals that energy is incoming, so it doesn't need to open the fat vault. The body keeps burning what's circulating in the bloodstream instead of reaching into storage. The visceral fat that sits deep around the organs, the very fat fasting was meant to target. The irony is that people make these mistakes trying to be healthy. They're told to eat frequent protein to boost metabolism or protect muscle, But that advice only works for people who aren't fasting. For a fasting body, the rules shift. You don't need constant feeding, you need strategic feeding. You need to let insulin fully reset before introducing protein again. And when you do, it has to be in the right ratio, enough to rebuild tissue without flooding the system. Even timing can make or break the process. Eating protein too early in your feeding window, say the first bite after fasting, can trigger a quick insulin rise that cuts short autophagy, the deep cellular repair that was still in progress. A smarter move is to reintroduce protein a bit later, after your first few bites of fiber or fat, so the digestive process slows and insulin response stays moderate. Small tweaks like this preserve the fasting benefits while still nourishing your muscles. It's not about fear of protein, it's about respecting its power. Protein is a potent signal, not a passive nutrient. Used wrong, it keeps insulin whispering all day, locking fat away. Used right, it acts as a metabolic amplifier, stabilizing blood sugar and rebuilding lean mass. Once you stop treating protein as an all-day snack and start using it as a time tool, fasting begins to work again. The fog lifts, energy steadies, and fat loss resumes. Not because you're eating less, but because you're finally letting your hormones lead the process, not fight it. The secret isn't just what protein you eat. It's when and how you eat it. This is where the real metabolic magic happens. The biggest mistake most people make is thinking that breaking their fast with protein right away gives their body the fuel it needs. But your system doesn't work like that. After fasting, your cells are in a delicate, highly sensitive state. Insulin has been low, autophagy has been active, and your fat burning engine is fully switched on. If you rush to reintroduce protein too early or in the wrong ratio, you flip that hormonal balance too fast. The goal isn't to slam the door on fasting. It's to ease your body back into nourishment so you keep burning fat while supporting repair. Here's the trick. You don't start with protein at all. You start with fat. A small, intentional amount of healthy fat first. Something like a few olives, a spoonful of avocado, or a few sips of coffee blended with MCT oil or butter. Fat doesn't spike insulin. It's almost invisible to that system. What it does instead is gently wake up your digestive enzymes and stabilize your blood sugar so your body transitions smoothly out of the fasted state. This fat first approach preserves the hormonal calm you built during fasting and prevents the crash that can come from jumping straight into a meal. Once your body has had that small fat primer, that's when the protein trick comes in. You add your protein about 20 to 30 minutes later, but not just any protein and not in overwhelming amounts. Think clean, high quality, easily digestible protein, eggs, fish, grass-fed beef, or collagen. The amount matters more than you think. It should be enough to signal repair without overwhelming your liver. Somewhere between 20 and 35 grams of protein in that first full meal hits the sweet spot for most people. At that range, you trigger muscle rebuilding and mitochondrial recovery while keeping insulin low enough for continued fat burning. The science behind this is beautifully simple. Fasting depletes glycogen, your body's short-term energy storage. When you eat fat first, you delay the return of glucose to the bloodstream. That means when you finally introduce protein, your body uses the amino acids for repair, not for fuel. The liver doesn't convert them into sugar because it's not under immediate energy demand. This keeps insulin almost flat while allowing those amino acids, especially leucine, lysine, and valine, to activate repair pathways inside the muscle and mitochondria. You stay in a semi-fasted metabolic state even though you've technically eaten. Pairing your protein with more healthy fat also extends this effect. For example, salmon with olive oil, eggs with avocado, or chicken cooked in coconut oil. The fat slows digestion and blunts any small insulin rise from the protein. Your blood sugar stays steady, your energy stays smooth, and your body continues burning stored fat between meals. This combination creates a metabolic overlap, fasting and feeding working together, not against each other. Timing is everything. If you fast for 16 hours, your first few bites should never be protein. Give your gut and hormones 20 minutes to adjust with that fat-first approach. Then, once you add protein, avoid layering in starches or sugars immediately afterward. Let that first meal be focused, protein plus fat, minimal carbs. You can introduce fiber, rich vegetables later in your eating window if you want volume without spiking insulin. This trick also resets hunger signals. By reintroducing nutrients slowly and strategically, you avoid the blood sugar roller coaster that often follows a traditional fast, breaking meal. Your brain feels satisfied sooner, ghrelin levels, your hunger hormone, drop naturally, and you end up eating less overall without trying. It's not willpower, it's biology working in your favor. What's remarkable is how fast your body responds when you do this consistently. Within days, your fasting feels easier. Cravings disappear because your blood sugar stays stable. You stop losing muscle and start losing the stubborn visceral fat that never moved before. Energy stays high because you're feeding your cells exactly what they need. Not too soon, not too much, and not in a way that confuses your hormones. So the secret protein trick isn't about adding more, it's about sequencing better. Fat first to keep insulin flat, then measured protein to signal repair. That sequence locks in the benefits of your fast instead of erasing them. It turns every refeed into an extension of your fat burning cycle, where you're nourishing without reversing the progress you've made. Once you learn that rhythm, fast, fat, then protein, you're no longer guessing. You're working with your biology, not against it. And that's when fasting becomes effortless. When the process that once felt like discipline becomes your natural metabolic rhythm. You said expansion prompt 50. The transformation, what happens when you get protein timing right? 700 words? Describe the visible and metabolic shift, reduced cravings, more steady energy, improved focus, and measurable loss of visceral fat. Highlight how balanced protein use protects muscle and keeps metabolism high, while fasting deepens fat burning. Reinforce the link between lower insulin, better repair, and long-term metabolic resilience. Notes say avoid heading and ending sentences, ChatGPT said. When you finally get protein timing right, everything about your fasting experience changes. The first thing people notice isn't the scale, it's the calm. The cravings that used to roar in the late afternoon quiet down. That jittery edge that came from pushing too long without food disappears. Instead of crashing after you eat, your energy stays level, steady, and clean. It feels as if your body finally understands what you're asking it to do, and it starts cooperating instead of fighting back. The shift happens at both a visible and invisible level. On the surface, your body composition begins to change. You may not see a huge drop on the scale immediately, but the shape of your body starts to refine. Clothes fit differently. The puffy, inflamed look softens. You can literally see the difference between losing water and losing visceral fat, the dangerous kind that wraps around your organs and drives insulin resistance. As insulin stays low and your protein rhythm strengthens, your liver finally begins releasing that deep, stubborn fat. Your belly flattens, your waist tightens, and the inflammation that made you feel swollen or sluggish starts to fade. Inside your body, something even more profound is taking place. By using protein correctly, at the right time and in the right dose, you're protecting your lean muscle mass. Muscle isn't just for strength. It's your metabolic engine. It's the tissue that burns calories even when you're sitting still. When fasting isn't paired with adequate protein, the body can begin breaking down muscle to meet energy demands. That's why some people lose weight quickly but feel weaker, colder, or more fatigued. Their metabolism slows because they've lost the very tissue that keeps it running. The strategic protein trick prevents that from happening. It tells your body, keep the muscle, burn the fat. With steady insulin control, the body becomes metabolically flexible. It can easily switch between burning glucose and fat for fuel. That flexibility is what makes fasting feel effortless over time. You're no longer trapped in the cycle of hunger and cravings because your body isn't dependent on quick sugar hits for energy. Instead, it's running on stored fat, producing clean, stable energy that lasts for hours. This is why people who master protein timing often describe feeling awake in a way they haven't felt in years. Their brain fog clears, focus sharpens, and mental energy becomes consistent. That clarity isn't a coincidence. It's a direct result of lower insulin and higher ketone production. The body's signal that fat burning is fully engaged. You'll also notice a subtle but powerful change in appetite control. When you feed your body in rhythm, fasting, then fat, then protein, hunger becomes predictable and manageable. You eat because it's time, not because you're driven by cravings. The hormone ghrelin, which triggers hunger, starts to align with your fasting schedule. Leptin, the hormone that signals fullness, begins to work again after years of being ignored by high insulin levels. The result is freedom. You're not thinking about food all day. You're finally in charge of when and how you eat. Beyond fat loss, the benefits run deeper into your cells. Autophagy, the internal repair process, becomes more efficient because insulin isn't constantly interfering. Damaged mitochondria are replaced with stronger ones. Inflammation markers drop. Your body becomes more responsive to every signal it receives. Insulin, cortisol, thyroid hormones. Because the noise of constant feeding is gone, you start to see the real purpose of fasting, not just to lose weight, but to heal the communication inside your metabolism. This balance of fasting and protein timing creates what I call metabolic resilience, the ability to recover quickly from stress, illness, or even a few indulgent meals. When your insulin sensitivity improves, your body doesn't panic after eating something higher in carbs. It processes it efficiently and returns to baseline faster. You're no longer trapped in the fragile state of dieting where one meal can undo progress. Instead, your metabolism becomes adaptable, strong, and forgiving. Over time, these changes compound. Blood pressure drops. Sleep deepens. You wake up with more energy than you used to have even with caffeine. The weight loss becomes visible, not just on the outside, but in lab results. Lower triglycerides, better glucose control, and improved liver enzymes. Your body becomes leaner, but also younger at the cellular level. This is what happens when you use protein as a partner to fasting rather than a disruption. You maintain the benefits of low insulin while feeding your lean tissue just enough to keep your metabolism active. It's the balance that so many people miss, the harmony between burn and build, stress and recovery. Once you find it, fasting stops being a temporary strategy and becomes your body's default rhythm, a rhythm that supports long-term repair, steady energy, and a life free from the roller coaster of hunger and fatigue. The real secret to lasting success isn't found in the perfect fasting schedule or a flawless diet plan. It's found in rhythm. The body thrives on rhythm. It doesn't need punishment or extremes, it needs consistency. And when you learn to build this protein, fasting rhythm into your daily life, it stops feeling like a protocol and starts feeling like your natural state, the way your metabolism was always meant to run. The beauty of the protein trick is that it doesn't require massive changes. You don't need to overhaul your lifestyle, count every gram, or chase impossible fasting hours. You simply need to understand timing, when to give your body fuel and when to give it space. Once you grasp that rhythm, your days fall into an effortless flow. You wake up, hydrate, and ease into your fast without anxiety. You sip your black coffee or tea, knowing that each hour of fasting is deepening repair, improving insulin sensitivity, and burning stored fat. And when it's time to eat, you do it intentionally, fat first, then protein. That one adjustment alone keeps your metabolism working with you, not against you. Consistency is far more powerful than intensity. Many people burn out because they chase perfection, longer fasts, stricter macros, more rules. But the body doesn't reward extremes, it rewards repetition. Even if you only fast 14 to 16 hours most days, your insulin rhythm stabilizes. Even if you don't hit perfect protein targets every time, your body still recognizes the pattern: fasting, repair, feed, rebuild. That pattern is what trains your metabolism to stay flexible and efficient. The trick is to make it livable. Start by setting an eating window that fits your real life, maybe 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or noon to 8 p.m. That's your fasting framework. Within that window, build your meals around the protein. Fasting sequence first fat to ease your system, then clean protein paired with healthy fats. Avoid grazing. Each bite should have purpose. When you do this, hunger becomes predictable, meals become satisfying, and fasting becomes easy to repeat. You'll notice the difference in how your days feel. Instead of that mid-afternoon crash, your energy stays stable. Instead of craving snacks, your mind stays clear. You don't need willpower because your hormones are finally balanced. And when life gets busy, a late meeting, a skipped meal, or a night out, your body doesn't spiral. It knows how to recover because your baseline rhythm is strong. The goal isn't perfection, it's adaptability. Another key to making this stick is preparation. Keep simple, high-quality protein sources ready. Boiled eggs, tuna, collagen powder, or cooked chicken. Have healthy fats on hand. Avocados, olives, nuts, MCT oil. This makes it easy to follow the rhythm even on hectic days. If you break your fast while traveling, a few bites of fat followed by a protein shake is enough to maintain your insulin balance until you can sit down for a proper meal. Small, Consistent choices like these create the foundation for metabolic stability. You can also build small rituals around your fasting routine to make it sustainable. Start your morning with movement, a walk, a stretch, or light resistance work before breaking your fast. This enhances insulin sensitivity and deepens fat use. In the evening, close your eating window with a protein-rich meal to support overnight repair. These are not rules, they're rhythms that your body begins to crave because they make you feel good. The more you practice this rhythm, the less it feels like effort. Fasting becomes your body's default setting. You'll start to notice small signs of transformation that go beyond fat loss. Waking up without grogginess, sharper focus during the day, fewer cravings at night. Your skin clears, your digestion improves, and you begin to feel younger from the inside out. These are signs of a body that's finally healing, finally aligned with its design. Once you master this protein trick, fasting becomes effortless. Your body no longer fights you, it follows you. You're no longer forcing results, you're flowing with your biology. Each fast becomes an opportunity to clean, heal, and rebuild, not through deprivation, but through balance. This is what metabolic freedom feels like: steady energy, peaceful hunger, and a body that burns fat automatically. When you live in this rhythm long enough, you stop chasing results because you've become the kind of person whose body naturally stays in repair and fat burning mode. And that's the real transformation, when fasting is no longer something you do, but something your body is.